Hello. So I just tried to record this video, but it deleted. So I'm gonna try again because the main lesson of this year has been perseverance. Um, End of last year and into this year. So I'm gonna try again. Um, so I've decided, and I could change my mind. Who knows? We'll see if this video goes up. But I've decided that I think I want to share the letter that I wrote to um, the person who assaulted me, who was my, yeah, the person who assaulted me. I want to share the letter that I wrote to him because I think that it could potentially be another resource that another survivor could use in terms of finding some type of empowerment and closure and justice, whatever that might look like for you, um, in a way that's outside of the court system, because so many of us don't report and don't go through the justice system because it's not a justice system and it's exhausting and there's really no point. So this is something that I did, and I'm not going to give too much context other than I'm not going to say the name of the person because I just am not going to. But yeah, this is something that I sent them. I never got a response, and I certainly didn't get an apology, but it is what it is. So I'm going to read it. I'm sending this letter to you in order to provide myself with closure from our relationship, specifically our intimacy. During the last time I spoke to you on the phone, you admitted to me that you were aware of my discomfort and lack of consent during several of our sexually intimate experiences. I spoke to you about how your inability to listen to my needs and be open to my suggestions led me to feeling disconnected and feeling like our relationship needed to end. I specifically mentioned the times I wanted you to stop touching me, the times I would say no, the times I would move away from you, put my clothes back on, get up, tell you I didn't want to continue, the times I would physically close my legs and move your hands away. I spoke to you about how you not listening to me during those times was really difficult for me to process when it comes to how I felt about our intimacy and the conversation around consent that comes with that. After our very first sexual experience together, I spoke to you about listening when I say no, because during our first experience, I said no several times and you ignored me. You acknowledged this during that conversation and said you understood, and I believed you because I trusted you. So when I shared how I was feeling as one of the real reasons why we were breaking up, I shared this thinking you weren't aware of the boundaries you had crossed. I thought I had done something wrong, misled you, didn't speak up enough, or wasn't clear enough. I thought I was the problem, was responsible, and that I was to blame. But during our final call, you admitted to me that you were aware of how I was feeling and of your own actions. You knew the whole time. You internally acknowledged the times I would say no out loud, or no in different words, or no with my body, or no with my energy. You knew and you were aware that many of the sexual experiences were non-consensual. You intentionally made the decision to ignore me. You said you did not listen because of your own insecurities. During that last phone call, you pushed for me to talk about how I felt about our intimacy because you knew that was the root cause of our breakup. You told me you knew that was part of the problem. Though I didn't say exactly what I'm saying to you now, you told me you understood why I was so upset and disconnected after your admittance. You knew because you understood the gravity of what you were admitting to me even then, um, even without saying the specific words that would identify you as committing sexual violence against me. The moment you admitted your violation during our call, everything changed for me. Because whether you were aware or not, you revealed a painful truth about our relationship. Almost all of our sexual intimacy was non-consensual. You were aware and you did not care about how that would affect me because your insecurities were more important. You knowingly ignoring my rejection is you lacking my consent. Even if you weren't aware, no means no in all forms, and you know this. You knew when I wanted to stop and was uncomfortable, and you did not stop. That is sexual assault, and that is rape. During our sexual relationship, you actively and with full awareness of your actions sexually assaulted me several times. Your intentions do not matter. What matters are your actions, and they reflect your complete disregard for my well-being in our sexual relationship. The pain, betrayal, and anger I've experienced since our last phone call is something you will never understand. But I deserve closure, and I deserve to be free from you and the ways you hurt me. What I'm looking for from this letter is to make sure that you are fully aware of how I feel about you and our relationship, and to make sure you understand where you went wrong so that you don't repeat these unhealthy and sexually violent behaviors with somebody else. Whether you feel as though what you did was sexual violence doesn't matter to me, and I'm not looking for an apology. I've spoken with a therapist, friends, and family, and have received the validation and support I need in naming these experiences. I want you to know that I consider many of our sexual experiences together non-consensual. I consider our relationship unhealthy and traumatic. You violated my trust, our emotional relationship, and my physical body by refusing to confront your own insecurities and respect my boundaries. When I would say no, would move your hands away, and ask you to stop, you should have listened immediately and stopped without continuing to ask or trying to make me open up to you again. Coercion is not consent. Me saying no several times, then saying yes is not consent. You physically opening my legs and touching me again after I had closed them is not consent. Me not physically fighting you off, crying, screaming, ending things immediately, and even continuing on in our relationship for as long as I did does not mean you had my consent. I was not fully aware of what you were aware of, and my own preconceived notions of what entailed sexual assault stopped me from feeling valid in my own experiences, along with your deception and the one-sided manner of our intimacy, which always put me in the position of receiving and never progressing to fully penetrative sex beyond the use of your hands. I'm going to list out the experiences that I can make sense of and that I can remember right now that speak to the truth of our relationship, so you know exactly what I'm speaking about. I respected your boundaries around your body and your comforts, even when that meant I did not receive any pleasure from our sexual experiences, because that's what you do when you care about and respect somebody's boundaries. Even when I wanted to have penetrative sex beyond the use of your hands, I did not pressure you. The one time I did express real interest and excitement around being sexually intimate and was clear in my desire, you made me feel uncomfortable, as if I was behaving strangely. You even asked me why I was so interested in being intimate, as if me eagerly expressing interest and consent was a turn-off for you. It always felt as if you were most excited about being sexually intimate with me after I had said no, was being closed off, and had finally given in after a few attempts. When I was equally interested and in the initiator, you were never as excited. When you told me you were uncomfortable with different sexual positions we tried, such as me sitting above your face in a position where I had more control, or on your lap, I respected those boundaries, and we never did them again, despite the fact that they were the only ways I felt pleasure. You only enjoyed me being on my back, or you holding me from the back and penetrating me this way with your hands or orally. The only positions we ever consistently did allowed you to be the one in power. They were positions that required a relinquishing of my control. They required my personal vulnerability without any emotional reassurance from you, and they required me to give up real active participation in our sexual relationship. I never felt as though I was part of any of our sexual experiences, even though I was receiving, which put me in a position of constant confusion and discomfort around receiving pleasure, because you turned something that was meant to make me feel good into a burden, uncomfortable pressure, and emotional and physically painful feeling for me. There was one day in particular that I told you I didn't want to do anything sexual, and you were visibly and emotionally distant. This made it clear to me that our physical intimacy was the priority in making you feel close and connected to me. I understand that physical touch was one of your most important love languages, and even though it was the least important love language for me, which I told you, I made every effort to make sure I made room for that in our relationship. You did not do the same. I initiated our initial conversations around sex and intimacy. I prioritized communicating our needs and boundaries before we even began being intimate. After several uncomfortable sexual experiences where I was not experiencing pleasure, I tried to find a solution. By this point, you had already violated my boundaries around consent several times, but I was numb to this truth. I brought up using lube and vibrators to help me also feel pleasure, to give me some form of power and agency in our relationship, and you made it about you and your insecurities around being able to please me yourself. Even though you were able to come during several of our sexual experiences, and I wasn't able to during any of ours, you took my own pleasure and made it about you. Being able to please me yourself meant me having to say no, or meant me having no say or participation in the act. Almost all of our sexual experiences were about fulfilling your own sense of masculinity and dominance in our relationship. My own pleasure was consistently about you and never about me, and you never made an effort to change this. You did not acknowledge this until our final phone call. You told me that me audibly telling you something didn't feel good made you feel insecure, and instead suggested that I show and display my lack of pleasure by being silent. You literally told me you didn't like it when I told you that I didn't like something that you did, or that something didn't feel good. You guilted and silenced me by saying it made you feel insecure. How could I feel comfortable talking to you about the problems with our intimacy or even our relationship when you said silence was the best answer to make you feel safe and secure? You said to show you through my physical actions. So when I did by moving your hands, moving away from you, putting my clothes on, closing my legs, I expected you to listen, but you didn't. You ignored me or coerced me or pressured me to keep going. Did you think about what makes me feel safe? You only wanted open communication that didn't challenge your role in our sexual relationship. And yet I still pushed through and was vulnerable and open with you about how I felt during our sexual interactions. When I brought up changing our sexual relationship from being strictly about me receiving, you made no genuine and consistent efforts to change. You said yes in the moment and then did not follow through. Just like our initial conversation about consent and listening when I say no. just like when I offered ways to help me feel more pleasure through the use of vibrators and lube. You always affirmed me in the moment and then did not follow through. That is emotional manipulation. You always needed to be in control sexually, and I wasn't given the space to be actively involved in our sexual relationship, which I expressed to you as a problem for me more than a month before we broke up, and you did nothing to change. Through all of your insecurities and my understanding of those, you were dismissive of my own insecurities. I spoke to you about having orgasms in a way that did not fit the typical representations, and yet you still pushed me and my body to perform in a way that made you feel valid. I set a boundary with myself to never fake an orgasm with you, but I did push myself to perform in order to satisfy your needs enough so that the sexual encounters could be over. I would fake pleasure and enjoyment in hopes that you would feel good enough to just let things be, because it was becoming painful and emotionally and physically exhausting to endure sexual intimacy with you, as I felt no pleasure and was often in physical pain. I just wanted it to be done. I just wanted it to be done. I just wanted it to be done because you were not listening, and you were never going to. I was so careful and aware of your own feelings and sense of safety that I disregarded my own safety and my own comfort. You were so concerned with your own masculinity and insecurities that you disregarded my voice, my autonomy, my safety, and my pleasure in our relationship. I asked you to be more open with me about what was stopping us from having penetrative sex beyond the use of your fingers, and you set a very clear boundary with me around discussing that, which I gave you space for. You were protective with your body, and you set those boundaries, making it clear that you understood the importance of those boundaries and asserting them, yet you disregarded my own, both spoken out loud and through my body language. After our in-person breakup, and after several phone calls that week, I asked you for space. In fact, I told you that I really needed time to myself. I said we could be friends after you said that's what you needed. But I said I needed time. At first, I framed it as something that might be good for you. You said you didn't want that. So then I went back to making it clear that it was something that I needed for myself. I set yet another boundary with you, this time as a friend. Instead, you continued to contact me regularly, and I accommodated you because I understood that this was really painful for you. But did you ever think of me and how I felt? Even as a friend, you did not respect me enough to follow my boundaries. You even said to me during one of our conversations that it seemed like I didn't care because I wasn't expressing my emotions that felt sorrowful enough for you. You said that it would be hard for us to be friends because you didn't know how to move on from our physical relationship. How do you think that made me feel? Did you even think about this? Ultimately, all the accommodations and respect and care I gave you in our sexual relationship and after our breakup, through our emotional relationship, was not reciprocated and led to me feeling repeatedly isolated from you, from us, and from my own body. I am now on my own journey of healing, And I will continue not speaking to you or seeing you. But this letter is to finally speak my truth and release myself from you. When I spoke to my therapist the day after our last call, she asked me if I wanted to take legal action and report you. I said no, because I'm still protecting you. Because I know how our justice system would treat you, despite all the lack of care and love that you showed me. I still felt the need to protect you and ensure that your future and your safety was secure. Even though I'm not taking legal action, this doesn't change the truth. You are an assaulter and a rapist, and you need to change. I will not protect you anymore by not saying these words. Oh, God. All right. So that was the letter. That was what I wrote. That's what I sent to him over a Facebook message because I blocked and deleted his number I think it was the day after our last call or sometime within that time frame. But yeah, I didn't think I was going to cry. I honestly didn't want to because I just didn't want to feel like I had to project that type of emotion. And I'm not really a crier. Or maybe I'm just emotionally blocked. I don't know. It could be either one. But I'm really proud of myself for being able to write that and for sending it. And I think just reading it again was just I don't know how I ever was just invalidating my own experiences and saying that, I wasn't a survivor and that I hadn't gone through anything. Because, what the hell was that? That was so traumatic. But it's okay. I'm really glad that I wrote that. And I think I will share this video. I don't even know if anybody will see it. But if you are a survivor of any type of violence and, you're aware of the lacking support of our justice systems when it comes to gender-based violence in general, violence when it comes to sexual violence, regardless of how you identify. I think that, if you can write something like this where you really do not give any excuses to anybody and pull out all of your experiences and just lay it out. And even if you don't send it, but just writing it out, if anything, you get to see your own truth written on paper, and that can't be erased. It's something really powerful and something that I'm really proud of. And I think that every survivor, I don't know why I'm so emotional. I think it's the Cancer full moon, but every survivor deserves to feel empowered and just heard and valued. So, yeah. I can't believe I'm crying so much. I think it's a lot. But, yeah. I hope that me sharing this was helpful and maybe even brought some validation to your own experiences, some peace. If you want to claim that power through me, I'm all for it. This is, as much as this was for myself, this was also just for survivors in general, because who's going to court? That's ridiculous. Nobody has the money for that. So yeah, and I wouldn't even want to go to court. It's just the emotional labor. It's too much. But yeah,
I'm gonna sign off. It's like 1 a.m. It's 1:16 a.m. I'm tired and it's Friday and I just need to go to sleep. But I'm really glad I chose to make this, and I think I might, muster up the strength and the courage to make a video kind of talking about my own journey towards healing. I'm still very much so on the journey, as you can see. Not that you're not allowed to cry about things. I'm just shocked that I'm crying because I'm really not. I'm not very much of a crier, so I am kind of shocked. But yeah, I think I will make a video because I have been on a spiritual journey, and through that process I've had to do a lot of healing with, trusting myself and allowing myself to be not a victim, but a victim, and, not always needing to be strong and, off to war she goes. Like, I need to be cared for, I need to heal, I need to be nurtured, I need to nurture myself and give love to myself. And I think that that's something that a lot of survivors and just people who have been through traumatic experiences need in general. So yeah, I'm fully going to post a video of me crying on the internet because, I'm in a state of surrender. I'm just letting things be and I'm taking risks, and it is what it is. I don't really have anything to lose, and like, who cares? Whoever sees this, I hope whoever does see this benefits from it, and just sending a lot of love and, energy of peace. I hope you're at peace, whoever you are watching this. And yeah, I'm grateful to share this, and I'm grateful to share this space. So I'm gonna go. I feel like I just like talked for like 7 minutes. I'm gonna go to sleep. But yeah, goodbye, good night. Happy New Year.